So it's another good morning brew razor, a little later due to some technical difficulties on everybody's end, but that's life in the podcast slash YouTube city, I guess. We're making it work. We're on right now, so that's all that matters. Bruins win 3-2 last night over the Pittsburgh Penguins, a game that had many, I would call it mood swings to it, personality changes to it. Uh, I'm happy with the victory. It wasn't Picasso, wasn't gorgeous, but on the other hand, there was a lot of elements that were great. Let's get right into it. We'll start with goaltending, if only because Tuukka Rask, while Craig Smith was awesome and was our player of the game, Tuukka Rask was phenomenal again. Have you ever seen a goalie this good in breakaways this early in a season?
No, he's clicking on all cylinders with the breakaways, and yeah, we feel like we default to Tuco a lot, right? And it feels like we go to him right away after games. I got home last night. You watch around NHL on the fly. You're flying around, and there's bad goals all over the place.
All of them.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I wish I could talk about this bad goal for a change and explain why this is a bad goal rather than it's always a great save. It's always a great play. And Tuca saved the day. And we get used to it. And it actually makes it sometimes monotonous, I feel like, that we just go to Tuca right away. And yeah, he played great again. But the reality is he did. Yeah. And the reality is he's changing the game when he makes these saves, when he makes 3 breakaway saves. Last week was the shootout saves and the wonderful save coming across in the Philly game. And he did the second period, that under square flying out to make it to keep it 2-0, the saves he made there. And so I know it feels monotonous that we go to Tuca, but the reality is he is much, much better than a lot of goalies in the league. And the way he makes these saves for this team is what allows them to win the game. It makes such a difference in not giving up these bad goals that we see every single night.
All right, so 6 shootout saves so far. Would it be an extreme number to say he's probably faced another 6, if not 7 or 8 breakaways in the games that he's faced? In-game breakaways. I mean, last night they had 3. The Philly game, New Jersey, there were a couple. I mean,
It's no, just thinking through the Rolodex, it's not extreme. Yeah, you're looking upwards 6, 7, 8 chances.
Let's call it 8. So he's faced 14 breakaways between in-game and shootouts so far. That's a scary number. And that, I don't know. We probably didn't touch on that in our post game last night. While, yes, the Bruins as a team have defended well, they've given up too many breakaways.
You're right.
It's going to bite them. It's going to come back to bite them. It absolutely is.
It does. And they lost a point in New Jersey because of giving up making a poor play and poor decision and giving up that breakaway with a second left in overtime. So, yes, it will. The numbers say you can't keep up this pace. Going 1 for 8 and 6 for, or 7 for 8 and 6 for 6 the entire season. That's not going to continue. Watch neutral zone. They have to tighten up and make sure that D-man's hanging back a little bit more. But they've gotten away with it to this point, and it's something that it's an easy fix. Mm-hmm. It's an easy fix that the coaches can do. You just have to have a little bit more awareness on the back end. And they can fix that.
Yeah, well, teams are shooting guys against the Bruins. I do think that's going to be a play for New Jersey all year long with their young legs when they're going. Brian Rust has had numerous breakaways this year already, too, but he had a couple last night against the Bruins. I think teams are going to look at the video and they're going to say, as soon as we get it, shoot by him. Challenge him. I do. I don't disagree that there's an adjustment to be made, but I do think the teams are game planning right now against the Bruins to do that. And why not? It's been successful so far.
That's right, and I would imagine there's a lot of league. When things aren't going well, for a Pittsburgh team last night didn't have a lot going. Instead of the old days where you slow things down and try and slog and clog the middle, now we're going. Now we're going to turn this into a track meet as much as we can, and that's where the Bruins are going to have to, especially if they continue with these 2-0 leads. They have that, they're under siege a lot more because you can't just sit back on these leads anymore because, again, a team like Pittsburgh, we saw it last night, They just start flying the zone. They just start going, and that's where those chances come from.
Yeah, you thought that Tuukka perhaps his season was done after that first goal when the injury happened. We all did. Everybody gasped. Everybody held breath till we were the old blue in the face. I think it was one of those cramps slash stinger's not the right word, but that shooting pain that you get when you haven't, we joked about it, done enough of those leg lifts like in, Richard Simmons dancing to the oldies or jazzercising. But the movements are like for goaltenders so important. And if it was a hip, oh my God, that's the worst injury a goalie can have, right? I mean, absolute worst.
1,000%. And you're dealing with anything in that hip area. You have to be so cautious with it. It comes back at any time. It's a season-long injury, and whether you play a couple games here and there, but it's a season. So fortunately, he gets up, and you're still like, I'm shocked that he's in net, just the way he reacted. But obviously, he was scared. And literally, that's what happens. Yes. Guys get scared. You feel that pain, and right away, your brain clicks to the worst-case scenario. And it's complete shock, and you just get very scared. You get up, and then it looked like he was able to take a deep breath and like, oh, okay, it didn't pop out, or my labrum's not exploded on me, so I'm okay. And so I think that, after watching it and seeing the highlight, you see that the reaction was more of, I'm petrified. Yeah. That wasn't right.
Right. When you get hurt like a little kid, you're like, oh, I don't want to move. I don't want to feel what could happen. And then I guess as an adult, you do the same thing like there. But he went over and he had in a commercial break chat with Yarrow and was diagramming, basically saying, hey, I thought it was this and my hip. And you could see him talk about it like that. But everybody's breath was held. I was actually a little surprised again that he didn't get pulled just from wait a second. We're talking game 6 here right now. Are you sure, Tuukka? Like this is
yeah. We didn't even see Donnie. We didn't see anybody. And of all the people gasping, Yarrow's number one on that list at that point in the game. He wakes up pretty quick after having a little snoozer over there for the last hour and a half on the bench.
And I think post game, I think Butch talked about how some players talked to Tuukka and he said, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. And so there's that trust factor of a veteran. So that was scary moment. It was a lot of great moments. I don't think either goal that went in against him, I would say, issues. I mean, the Kapanen goal was speed, keeps the goalie back on the line, kind of got his pad a little bit. Was it goalie interference? It wasn't. But, he cut to the front and he put it in. That's what they brought Kapanen back to Pittsburgh for, was his speed. And he tied it up 2-2. And then Tuukka was fantastic the rest of the way. Shooter Smitty was awesome all game. There's a difference, though, between shooting to shoot and shooting with a purpose. I remember some years ago, Evander Kane, playing for Buffalo before he was traded to San Jose, had 11 shots on goal and something like 15 attempts in a game against the Bees. But he was shooting from everywhere without any purpose. And it actually does a detrimental aspect of his game because it would take other guys out of their game. And it'd be like, wait, what are you shooting from the goal line for when you could have made that pass? Smith doesn't seem to do that. And I think that's why working with a guy like Coyle, who is puck possession, he gets him the puck in the good spots. And that's why I think he's had success early on in the season with the Bruins.
You can't, absolutely 1,000% agree with guys that shoot to pad stats almost to a point, and it disrupts the lineup. It disrupts where guys are going. No one knows where they're going. In Craig Smith's case, everyone knows he shoots. They're okay with him shooting. They're going to the net, and that's where that purpose comes from. They know that puck is getting to the net. They know they're not going to see a drop pass out of Craig Smith on the next play. That consistency is there. Charlie Coyle knows he can go to the net. Nika, Frederick, whoever else is out there with those guys know that puck's going to the net. So that consistency of a veteran guy who's been known to shoot the puck a lot is valuable in that case. And that's why there's purpose. And you always see he's trying to put it through the back of the goalie every single time. He's not floating it in there. He's trying to rip it. He's trying to score every single time.
Yeah, and the contrast between what the Bruins did on their 2-on-0 versus what the Penguins did on their 3-on-0. You know, the Bruins goal culminates in Smith scoring, but so different than what they did there. We don't see those often. That's what makes, I can't stand the shootout. I've always loved the 3-on-3. That's just been how it is. I don't think I'm in the minority at all. No. I think most people would agree on that. I want to touch on both the Bruins 2-on-0 and then the 3-on-0, which really was a 2-on-0 because it was Letang and Malkin. I don't remember who was it. Marino. I don't remember.
Russ. Yeah, Russ blew out of there pretty quick there. Yeah.
Yeah, let him go, which is interesting because Russ is the fastest player of the three.
Yeah.
Maybe he was tired, or maybe he just said, with Letang in front of him, go.
Yeah.
But they were on their offsides. It wasn't lefty and lefty. It wasn't Malkin who's a lefty and Letang a lefty. It was righty in Letang, and it was lefty in Malkin. And I hadn't thought about that until I rewatched it. Now, I knew Malkin was on his offside, but I had forgotten, meaning the analysis part of it, that Letang was also on his offside. They should have switched. I know that sounds easy, but if Malkin had sifted over to the left side or just taken it on his own, I think they have a better chance of scoring than they did. The Bruins, meanwhile, had two righties, and Krejci made sure to give it to Craig Smith in a spot where he could shoot it. Letang and Malkin didn't.
No,
they screwed themselves.
They really did. Malkin, and they came in slow, and Malkin dropped that first pass. Craig Smith got to go east-west on the first pass. Then Krejci moves it back much quicker than Malkin did, or Letang did on the second pass in that 2-on-0. So there's no question that in hindsight, Malkin should have just taken that. Or knowing he had so much time, because they did have so much time, he could have delayed a little bit to the left wing, let Letang come in on the right side, and then start moving it back and forth that way. So they certainly didn't plan it out. They didn't have enough hockey sense, which is crazy to say that Malkin and Letang didn't have enough hockey sense at the time. But in hindsight, it really is the case that draw pass does nothing but slow the whole play down, because then Malkin has to slow down while he's going straight at the net. He's not delaying, coming across, keeping his speed, and letting Letang catch up. He's actually got to slow down, which makes it so much easier for a goaltender to read.
And his skates then were turned to where they were on or below the goal line, and Tuukka knew he wasn't shooting from there.
Yes.
And that's why Tuukka made the nice poke check, because his instincts are, okay, well, wait a second. I'm on my post. He's not going to shoot. I'll stick my stick out right there, and he eliminated that. Neither player was in what you would call a good shooting position. They had no shot option, whereas Krejci and Smith, now Smith gets going, Krejci gets going. You could hear the bench yelling 2, and Krejci picks the head up. I mean, Krejci, if you watch the play right before Smith shoots the puck, Krejci was in a great shooting position because he wasn't too deep. He was back. So if Smith went back to him, my guess is he probably scores that goal because the goaltender, Jarry, had already gone down. He'd already gone down to front the shot from Smith at the right side. But the contrast in how both teams pulled it off, or Pitt didn't pull it off, was stark. And again, having the opportunity to rewatch it, I noticed that. So Craig Smith, great game, put himself into some awesome position, put his team into awesome positions, making things happen. His passing has been very good. We did a nice breakdown of a pass he made against Philly the other day, and we talked about that too, about the bank pass. So far, so good with that addition to the lineup there. Speaking of additions to the lineup, Lausanne, Zaboral, again, Clifton. I like Clifton's game. Took some penalties. And by the way, let's discuss this. The cross-check on Malkin. Good or bad in your opinion? Did that wake up the big Gino? Or was it a good thing, as if to say, hey, I'm going to be around here, so I might be a lot smaller than you, but you know what? You're going to have to pay the price here.
I don't mind it. I hate, as a goalie, I hate killing off a penalty that doesn't save a goal. I think that sets a bit of a tone. I'm not sure Malkin plays any different after taking a shot like that. There might be a few guys in the league that do, but Gino's been around so long now. He's taken so many cross checks in the ribs that, and he showed up, prior to that. We saw him make a few good plays right away, right out of the gates, and after struggling the night before. So I'm here nor there, I suppose. A little bit on the fence with that one. I don't love it. Never bad to get the ribs. I just rather not kill the 2 minutes. And especially on a night where he didn't know that at the time, but it turned into six penalties, 12 minors, more than half a period you're killing off with a potent power play like that.
Yeah, I wasn't upset with the officiating at all.
No.
I thought they were all justifiable penalties. I mean, some more than others, but you could absolutely, and I always like to do this exercise. If that happened against the Bruins, right? I take the others, or against the other team, what would you expect? I do that exercise, and I'd say all those should have been called penalties. Let's say Pitt did them. Like, yeah, they should have been called penalties. Well, if that's the case in the Bruins, can get called for them too. I am fine, by the way, and I officiated for 4 or 5 years at the college hockey and junior hockey level. I never understood that some people want the balance of, well, they had 5 penalties, they should have 4 at least over here and everything. BS. If your team is creating penalties, call them. I don't care. Call them. Now, I know that players and coaches on the bench get livid and then they start looking for things, but the point you made during the telecast last night too was, by the way, the Bruins, you could argue that penalty that made it a 5-on-3 power play for them, where they scored on, was very maybe of all the calls, maybe the weakest
and the most valuable.
Martian got taken down.
And the most valuable, right? The weakest. And anytime you go 5-on-3, you're going to take, whether even if it's 35 seconds of 5-on-3 over any 2-minute penalty throughout the entire game. You're going to take that 5-on-3. Yeah. So if anything, Pittsburgh might have the problem with the officiating after last night.
How about that re-entry by Krejci that really shows his low heart rate just to come back in? I thought it was a great lesson for kids out there, because kids, when they hear 20 seconds or whatever, and as we talked on the telecast, somebody's yelling from the bench, 20 seconds left. They are,
yep.
Get it up, get it in. They would almost panic. They would try and do too much. Krejci's just like, okay, let's easy like a Sunday morning. Just right, Lionel Richie's it. Just brings it in and sets it up. And next thing you know, 12 seconds later, Marchand to Richie, a bullet pass. But that's what David Krejci's about. Some elevate the heart rate, he brings it down. And that's what he did for the team, and I thought it was so valuable.
And that's not, yes, 20 seconds left, but that was also after 1:10 of poor 5-on-3, not terrible, but poor. The Pittsburgh cleared it a couple times. They took the momentum a little bit away, and Krejci just reined it back in, got across the line, didn't make a quick pass to the wing where Pittsburgh might be able to close in, just got over the line, kept the middle of the ice, kept all of his options open around him, and it caused the two Pittsburgh defenders to stay up top. And then it was one pass beat those two guys, and you have a 2-on-1 in front of the net, and when you have Brad Marchand out there, he's going to find the seam. So, again, a wonderful play, and just to be able to slow it down, but also put himself in such a good spot to be able to make the next play. The maestro. Yeah. The maestro, you call him, right? The maestro.
Yeah, he's a maestro out there. He's a guy that's just it's magical. I'm so jealous. If I could have 1/8 of his hands and his vision and his thought process ability out there. I mean, it's gorgeous to watch it. I love that little self pass. I called it the soup. He just kind of ladled it to himself. I mean, just didn't, when he's taking the soup out of the bowl, puts it in, from the big pot to the little bowl, doesn't miss anything. It's just boom.
I'm starving.
I know, I am too there. I want to get through a couple of other things here on this morning, Brew. Marshy's shorthanded goal. More about what Marshy did or what Jarry didn't do. Not to take anything away, because I thought it was another awesome play, but from your perspective, what do you think?
It's such a tough play from a goalie point of view, that play where and Brad Marchand does a wonderful job getting to the middle. That's you're not taking that away from him. His hands, the quickness. You talked about his awareness of where Letang is on the ice, where his stick is. That stick comes down a little bit. Brad comes back to the middle. But as a goaltender, you want to let Brad get a little bit further ahead. Jarry overplayed it a lot. Seeing the replay again.
What do you mean by ahead?
Yes.
What do you mean by ahead?
Certainly. So the puck comes. One is you see where the goal goes in. It didn't go off the post. It went, fairly inside the post, that left post. So Brad Marchand's going left to right on Tristan Jarry. Jarry's moving his left to right. Jarry got too far ahead to his right. The hardest save for that goalie to make when the forward's cutting across the middle either way is back against the grain. because the goaltender's momentum is moving towards that other post. And in this case, Jarry to his right. So he wants to keep Brad Marchand on his right ear, keep him just a little bit ahead. So when that shot comes, he's dropping, he's driving into the puck to his right side. Instead, he gets...
You're giving him the blocker side.
You got to give that blocker side just a little bit rather than getting too far ahead. Marchand just pulls it back with that left-handed shot over the glove. Too much room there. It's impossible to react when your momentum's carrying you this way.
Yeah, okay. So it was a great play. It was, and not many players will make that. And I love the fact that, you know, the Bruins, especially Bergeron and Marchand, think offense when they're on the ice, killing penalty. Always are. If the opportunity's there, they take it. Beautiful, love it. Career goal, shorthanded goal leader of the Boston Bruins, and it's going to continue to run.
He's got 28 career. That's crazy.
28 shorties, isn't it?
Crazy.
I mean, that's he continues like this a couple of more years, his numbers in the rafters too.
I know.
It is. It just is. It's dominant what he's doing. I've said this last year. I don't remember if you were on the show or not, but if you look at left wings in the league, and I'm a huge Ovechkin fan, huge, but the best all-around left wing in the game is that guy, 63 in the Bruins, because he plays all situations. That doesn't mean that Ovechkin can't crush you in certain ways too, and he's this bull and he's dominant out there. But the overall best left wing that touches the game in all aspects is Marshy. That's crazy stuff.
It is, and we're all spoiled to watch it on a consistent basis. And it's obvious. We all know why. Maybe he doesn't get the love nationally and North American wise, just because of the way his career started. But what he's done the last 3-4 years, you can't argue. There's no one else that impacts the game on a nightly basis the way Brad does on the left side. And I would have argued you a couple years ago on Ovechkin, but I can't anymore. I've given up because of what you see. That goal last night, the shorthanded ability, the plays he makes. He's not impacting the game on a consistent basis like Brad is anymore.
Yeah, good. And if we're going to make it with this show, which we still have no freaking idea if we are or not, don't argue with me.
Yes, fair enough. Reason.
No, please argue with me. But no, I think the last 2 years he makes his case as the most well-rounded left wing. Two other things I want to get to on Morning Brew here after the Bruins 3-2 win in OT, a fun OT against the Penguins. I thought Lauzon, and we talked on this in our pregame show, Jeremy Lauzon was going to face the big boys, something that he hadn't seen. Voracek is a great player. Giroux's a great player. Hayes a great player. And they had some issues at times here and there. Not he personally, but the Bruins did against them. But Crosby and Malkin are different. I thought Lauzon was pretty good. I mean, he's showing me some good stuff. His stick work has been better. His moving of the puck up the ice continues to get better. I guess what I would say is I'm comfortable with him in that matchup situation so far. What's your take?
The best compliment I can give him right now, I haven't noticed him. I did not notice him last night. One time, I did not notice him. I didn't think he made a poor decision at any point. I didn't think he made an aggressive move on Crosby, trying to go into the corner too much and letting Sid dictate where he is on his backside, which he does to a lot of players. The compliment is that I did not notice him last night. And if that continues all year, we don't talk much about him. I think that is a successful year for Jeremy Lauzon and right where he wants to be in his development.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's good. And a lot of PK time.
Yeah.
The Bruins on the PK were excellent. Again, a lot of time spent on the PK. Let's hope that they don't have to in coming up. The other thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up, or something you want to touch on, let's get after it. We're doing this before the Bruins are on the ice for practice, okay? Jake DeBrusk, injured, played 3.5 minutes. Had been doing okay. I mean, he'd been doing all right on that right side. When I mean by okay, meaning he was in on plays, he was in on pucks, he was getting involved. But if he's out, what do you do? Do you move a right shot up there? Do you put Bjork back up there and put somebody else, let's say on the fourth line? Health being, everybody else being healthy. What do you do with that right spot for one more game before Pasternak comes back?
Good question. My first, I hadn't thought about it much. So when you fired at me, I'm thinking Bjork moves up because he's played there. You know, those guys.
Would you take Craig Smith and move him up?
I wouldn't. No. I keep the second and third line status quo. I move Bjork up, move someone in on that fourth line. I'm thinking, you know, I don't. You know, he has played with those two guys up top before, but is his pace at a point where he can jump in with Marchand and Bergeron playing against Sidney Crosby? Probably not.
Yeah,
so
no.
You have to manage his minutes. I think Bjork goes to the top, but no matter what they do, I would not, for me, I wouldn't touch the second line. I wouldn't touch the third line. They've been very good the last couple of days.
Bruce doesn't usually like doing that. You know, Butch just wants to keep. He says, if I can minimize the amount of times I got to touch the other lines, that would be great. Now he'll move them around in game if they're not working, but he likes to usually start out. You know, there's Greg McKegg, who's on the taxi squad. He could go in on the fourth line, play that role, and then you move Bjork up to that top spot again on the right side.
McKegg's a veteran guy. He, you know, probably matches up well against Pittsburgh's fourth line guys. That would make sense as well if Kuhlman's not ready. It would be a good time to get him in if he's healthy. He's been on the doing taxi squad. It's a good time to get a new guy in and put him on that fourth line because we're going to see injuries. This is going to continue. We're going to talk a lot about it when the guys are playing every other night. So the more guys you can get in touches early when the team's playing well, it takes some pressure off.
Yeah, and we don't know yet what the Jake DeBrusk situation is. Again, we're talking, chatting here, recording before Bruins practice. Jake will be a topic that will be asked to Bruce, probably the first question in his post-practice conference. So we'll figure that or find that out when we get told that. And, tomorrow, I mean, Bruce is very open. He's one of these new age coaches that doesn't hide things. He may tell you what he's thinking, and he might not. He might not know yet. And the other thing is every day you can make all the plans you want. Every day everybody's getting tested. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? All right, so that's for me. Morning Brew. Anything that you want to get to real quick before we?
The one takeaway I had again last night is this is a good team, very good team. We're just seeing now Pittsburgh's rolled through. Now we've seen them. We saw Philly a couple games. We've seen the Islanders. New Jersey's not expected to be, but Islanders, Pittsburgh, Philly, the Bruins, and Washington. Those are the 5 teams that everyone had pegged to take those 4 spots. And I haven't seen anything that tells me that these guys aren't going to be 1 or 2 or 3 in the top of the conference in the division. And I thought it was very important for them. You get a little nervous, right? They get the first win in overtime. They lose. No David Pastrnak still for a couple more weeks. Where's this team at? They're not scoring. I think the last 3 games have quelled that. Now, looking forward, all right, David's going to come back in the lineup really soon. Look out power play. Look out depth. Again, the depth of the forward. So my takeaway right now is feeling much better than when we started a week ago, just where this lineup is, where the defense are, and where the other teams are in the division that seemed were going to be the competition to get in the top 4.
Yeah, and there's question marks for every team. Bruins included, by the way. I mean, there are as the season's going to continue. So we'll see how they go. Let's just, from a Bruins perspective, keep banking points. Yeah, I don't care if they win the division. If they do, great. They don't need to run away with it. Just play well enough, get themselves in a good spot come playoff time. But I agree with you. I mean, from what I've seen right now, the eye test says the Bruins are a top 3 team. I thought that they'd be a number 3-4 team in the division, but from what I've seen so far, Philly's missing some key key pieces.
Yeah,
so I'm not ready to say they're still really good. I think the Caps are still really good, but I think the Bruins are right there. So that's what we'll see. All right, we'll get together on Morning Brew again after Thursday's game. Bruins take on the Penguins one more time at TD Garden before they hit the road. You and I will reconvene on Friday morning. All right.
All right, Friday morning. Love it.
All right, load up on the caffeine.
Oh, I'm going for it now. Big one this afternoon.
I was going to tell him not to go anywhere.
You want me to tell him? Can you jump on again? Did I hit the stop?
I think it's still recording, but I can cut it out.
All right.